2, go.
Hey friends, I am Kristen Zemke coming to you with the Ed Collab Gathering from Chicago. I am so excited this afternoon to introduce Rafranz Davis. She is an amazing educator out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, secondary math teacher, and just has done a large body of work to inspire students, first, to connect with educators. She is a global speaker, and you might have had the opportunity to see her last year at South by Southwest in Austin. She also spoke this past year at ISTE and was so inspiring. She has a great little post about her nephew, Braden, and some of the amazing things he's doing with technology. And so I'm so excited to hear her today share some of her favorite websites to give you a look into how we inspire kids and teachers and to celebrate learning with teachers around the world. So please make sure to follow along our hashtag, the Ed Collab Gathering. Join us on Twitter, and we'll turn it over to Rafranz. Thanks, everybody, and have a great time learning from her.
Hello, I'm Rafranz, as you've just heard, and I'm pretty excited about being here. I am actually out of the classroom now. I do instructional technology with a Dallas area school district. But one of my greatest, I think the greatest things that I get to do is working directly with math teachers. And so today what I want to do is share with you some resources that I like to use with our math teachers to talk about how we teach math in the classroom. So I'm going to first start, and by the way, this will be very much so not a app session, because I think that what we've all kind of come to understand in math, that it has to definitely be more than about the long list of apps that we have, and because there are real processes and skills that kids have to learn and that they need to be able to do to be successful in math classes. So I'm going to first start out with showing, and I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you can see that, and life is all great. So I'm going to first start out with just talking about where the creativity comes from and how we do that effectively. And for me, it's really about the verbs of math. When we start to look at where technology fits in math and how we can get kids to be more creative, math teachers tend to shy away from wanting to jump into the technology playground. And I don't blame them to a point, because math teachers, to me, are often the most scrutinized in every school, because those tend to be where the scores really determine what happens with that school. And that, as much as we want to say, you know, that doesn't matter, it's hard to say that to a teacher who is so, I think, kind of stuck on, I have to do things this way because they need these skills this way. And so what we try to do is to go in and look at what we call the process verb. So I'm in Texas. We are not Common Core. However, we just adjusted our standards. And with our standards, we're including a lot more process and skills mixed in with the math skills, which to me is logical anyway. And so we're getting teachers to get kids to do a lot more, you know, identifying at the lower level. But if you look at, I made a Wordle, which I thought was hilarious. So if you look at the most important word to kind of stick out, I took these directly from the process standards. And you see, we're trying to get kids to do a lot more developing, comparing, contrasting, analyzing information, describing, making inferences, understanding, and then of course you see interpret, predict, apply. And so what I wanted to bring to you today were some of my favorite web-based tools, actually, that you can use in your class to get kids to not only to think about math differently, but to see math more in the real world around them. And I think that that's something that maybe we struggle with a little bit. So I'm going to flip screens and go directly to, okay, I'm not going to go to that screen, but I'm going to change screens really quick. Oh. Are we good still?
Yep.
Yay. Okay, good. All right. So the first actual website that I'm going to talk about is 180 Questions because 180 Questions um, is created by an amazing math educator, Andrew Stadel. I don't know how to say his name for real, but he gave away stickers that say estimation 180, and I didn't get one. But anyway, so the way this works is you have every day of the week, basically, you have a math problem. So even if you did a problem of the day or a problem of the week, the idea is not just to jump into solve this, but to get kids to look at, analyze, describe what's happening, and maybe make some of those connections. So, for example, I'll click this one. What's the word count of Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address? So it's not, you don't want the kids to go just simply count, 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 but they can make an estimate. You know, and I like his question. What number do you think is too low? What number do you think is too high? What's your estimate? What's your reasoning? What's your name? And then submit. And so, of course, you can click and just get the answer too, but I love the fact that it's asking kids to really think about and maybe answer some questions. Let me go to day 189 and see what's there. What's the word count of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech? Ooh, that's interesting. Just to even get them up, oh good, I can click it and then it gets bigger, and I don't know if you can see that. But just to get them to try to formulate a pattern. They might figure out, oh, there might be 4 or 5 lines per, words per line, and counting down, whatever the case may be. It's not that they are exact, they don't have to be exact. It's just that they have to really think about math. I'm going to skip to a different day. Do one of y'all want to pick a day? Y'all all quiet. All right, I like this one. I'm going to click.
14, somebody said.
Somebody said 14. Okay, I'm going to go back. I like this picture, the height of the tractor tire, the tractor tire. So, of course, you see a little kid and you wonder, I don't know how tall that kid is, but that's not for me to know. That's for the kids to kind of think and estimate and think about. Let me go to day 14. Like, I could literally spend all day on just this website. And notice again, I'm not focusing on exact answers. I am really focusing on the analyzing, making estimations. I am doing some comparing. I might even be thinking about other things in the real world that I can compare it to. How many staples in a single strip? I'm going to tell you, I've never thought about this. I honestly don't know how many staples are in a single strip. But that's that's a good question. Like, how many staples could I staple before I have to replace the strip? We never think about those things, but that's math, and it's real, and it's around them. So I think this is a great tool, especially for middle schoolers, to really think about math. All right, so moving on to the next one, and it's only like 11 minutes after. This is good. So the next one is 180 questions. And 180 questions is not new. It didn't have to be, but it's done by the all-famous Dan Meyer. And I'm going to refresh this because I like to do that because you get a different question each time. And so with 180 questions, you basically, the students are looking at, sometimes there's a diagram, sometimes there's an image, sometimes there's a video, and the kids can look at it and then think about what's the first question that I see. And then they can post their question. So again, they're not looking at an answer. They're thinking, what would be the question that I could ask about this? How powerful is that? I mean, I think one of the things we struggle with most, especially with kids and problem solving, is getting them to ask good questions. Because I'm going to be honest, sometimes we don't always ask some of the best questions. And not because we can't, but because we're so stuck to a purchased curriculum that has the questions you're supposed to answer each time, that I think it's hard for some teachers to step out of that and to ask different things, which I hope that we can change that, because that's really going to be the only way that we can truly change and enhance math. But so this one, so if I didn't like the question, I can skip it. I'm bored. I don't like that question. So I can go to a different one. What's the first question that comes to your mind? Anybody have an idea? What's your question? Or one of you, my dear lovely host, got a question? Let's type it in. So maybe my question is...
how about we ask... What is the fraction of the shape in the middle of the screen?
Oh.
Of the red shape.
So I can submit. And then when I submit, I don't get to sit and ask more. I go to the next question. But you can always, I think you can go back in order to see it. I can just backspace out of it. But let's say I'm a teacher and I'm looking for images or something to use in math. Here's another thing that Dan does that I love. There's a download button. So if you want to use that image, all you have to do is log in, and then you're able to download it. You can also capture, so if you wanted to keep this, if you hit more, each one of those has a link. So you can capture the link directly to this, and so then you can share this link, and every student can interact or whatever with the exact same question. So it's not, you can, of course, use this in different ways in your class, and that's a great way of using it. I like 101 questions. I remember when this first came out, and I was still in the classroom. This is when I would start class. This is what I used to do. I would post a link to this, or share the link, and they would grab it, and just we would talk about it. What do you see? What do you think? Some really great questions have come from this from students. All right, another one that I'm going to share with you is Would You Rather. Would You Rather is also created by, of course, another wonderful math teacher on Twitter, and I'm probably going through the entire math teacher blogosphere, who knows. But on these, so basically, and I remember going shopping one day, and I posted, there was like a terrible sale sign that said that you could get 5 things for $25, or one thing a piece was like, oh, what was it? It was, I think it was to buy one by itself. It might have been like for something, or whatever the case may be. And so I posted it on Twitter, and so I got a tweet back, and he immediately said, "Oh my gosh, we need to put this on the Would You Rather." And that was the first time I'd ever heard of this, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, that's cool." So basically, Would You Rather gets kids or users to look at, compare, and contrast. Maybe you're comparing the math about it to see if would you rather have option A or B, like this one. Purchase shake A for $23 or shake B for $110. So then he gives you more information. Whichever answer you choose, justify your reasoning. Extend this conversation, ask students to follow up with questions, and then links. Of course, you can look at other labels. So you can look at the labels, and maybe if that has something to do with their answer. Waffle mix $4.99, or frozen waffles for $2.79. Buy package A or package B. And they have to think about why does one make sense over the other. What I also liked is he is actually tagging these with process standards, with math standards. So it's not that they are, there's a great one. Subscribe to Hulu for $7.99 a month, or subscribe to your local cable company for $19.99 a month. So now we're talking about value for the dollars that we're spending. What am I getting for Hulu? What am I getting for Comcast? Is it worth the money? That's real world application. These are things that kids will have to use in their real lives outside of the random questions that they may not be able to relate to from a textbook alone. So, of course, this is absolutely one of my favorites. Look at this one. Take Route A or take Route B to reach your final destination. How cool is that? Because I can actually take that and put it into some measurement system and get real measurement to make those kinds of comparisons if I needed to. But if not, you're also getting kids to talk about, the shortest distance between a point. Does it make sense to go that? Maybe that's exactly the same distance from A to B, in whichever way that I go, whatever the case may be. But you're getting kids to talk about it, which I have an idea for an answer, but I'm not going to tell you. Any questions so far? Because I'm talking really fast.
Not yet. We'll keep you posted, though.
All right, good. All right, so next thing that we're going to look at really quick is Desmos. Now, of course, I did say this was middle school based math, But I also want to point out that in Texas, our 7th and 8th graders are actually doing more, actually 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are doing more algebraic graphing. And so typically when you hear about decimals, it's high school and up that are talking about it, and maybe algebra. But I want to point one other thing out. So I'm going to launch Calculator. By the way, Decimals is an online graphing calculator. However, there's also an iPad app. There's also an iPhone app, so you can use this in different situations. I want to show you this. If I hit Add Item, you don't necessarily just have to start with an expression. I can put table, and so now I can go, of course, plot points, 3, 5, and I'm just kind of making this up as I go. There we go. So I can, of course, plot points, which is pretty important. I can also upload an image into, I'm not going to put oh yeah, well, do I have a ninja in here? No, I do not have a ninja in here, but I'm going to leave that alone. I can also upload an image, and so then maybe you can talk about, like I know when I taught 8th grade math, when we did dilations, we taught dilations with using slope. So even putting the images in here and having the kids use, because by that time I don't think we used slope. The word slope, we just called it the rate of change between the points that, that the x value had to, maybe if one, I think that it was rising, I hate to even say rise over run, but that's what we did. And so that's what we did to compare slope, but with decimals you can do that. And I meant to have an image in here, and I thought I had my little ninja ready, but you know what? I think I might have deleted it, and that's why it's not there. But it happens. All right, so Decimals is a great tool for just online graphing, period. If you've not used this in a middle school class, I'm going to go on to the next one, because now I'm going to talk about actual building a story, because this is one of my favorite ones. And I actually have a YouTube video with this that is not on this link, but I'll find it in a second. So this is Google Story Builder, and I'm going to guess you've probably never used this in a math class. But one of my favorite things to do with students is to get them to make math conversations. So with Google Story Builder, and this is not on an iPad, this is, you can do it on a Chromebook or on any, of course, desktop device. But when I click Get Started, you can name the characters of your story. So I'm going to put my son's name because that's fun, and I'll put my nephew. And if you want to have a third character, you can. I'll put Rafranz, and then I'll go to Write Story. So technically, Story Builder is supposed to be a way to show how collaborating on Google Docs works. But I like to use Story Builder to really just build a conversation. So maybe the conversation in this case is, I want to paint, let's spell it right maybe, and it's recording all that, by the way, the walls of my classroom. So then maybe the next character would reply, and he would say he might actually, there we go, move his cursor and say, how many buckets? Maybe he even jumps to a different line like normal people and says, how many buckets of paint will you need? And then the next character, maybe it's me, can then go to the end of this sentence. There we go. I don't know why it wasn't going the way I wanted it to just now, and say, we need the measurements. Oh, clearly I didn't pass typing that well. Just forgive me for that. Of the room. So if you ended up doing is you ended up building an entire conversation where they're really talking their way through a math problem, where one gives specific information, the next person comes back behind and maybe asks more questions, the next person comes back behind and gives more information, the next one might ask more questions. And so by the end of that, you just end up with a video story that just kind of types it out. It's not any imagery behind it. It's just a kind of a nifty, fun way to get kids, oh, it didn't go back and do my typing errors. Yay. It's just a nifty, fun way to go back and get kids to talk about, to create this math conversation. I use stories in my math class often, especially in the case when I'm talking about measurement. Well, not necessarily measurement. I'm talking about like growth, for instance, where I would just come in and say, make up a story like, hey, I have a job painting fences or mowing lawns, and for each lawn I mow, I get paid $25 just for showing up. And then for each hour that I work, I make an additional $50 an hour. And that's before we even talk about things like, the real essence of graphing, slopes and intercepts. And I mean, we get them to start building the ideas in their head. Or even the health club. We have a lot of kids in our hometown that play, several of them that play tennis at our tennis center. You had to be a member of the health club to do that. So they had a monthly fee that they had to pay, and then they had an additional amount that they had to pay each month, of course, each month, I'm sorry, that they were members. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm like a thought, but getting them to have those conversations. So using a storytelling tool in order to do that is it's effective, and it kind of helps them to think their way through it. Any questions so far? None, or you will stop me. All right.
Yep, I'll stop you.
All right, cool. So I'm going to go on to the next one, which I thought I had it up here, so let me grab it real quick. I don't know why it's not there. Thankfully, what I like about Google Hangouts is I can share screen and then be on the other screens, and you have no idea. Because it only shows that one screen, right?
Yep.
Hey. All right, so the next one I'm going to show you is visual patterns. Where did it go? I'm going to have to go grab it from here. If you follow Fawn Nguyen's work, she writes, so she is a math teacher. I think she teaches 8th grade math in California. And I actually absolutely love pretty much everything that she posts on her blog that she works. But she has and I don't know how I just lost it. But she has there it is. I knew that I wasn't completely crazy, only a little bit of crazy. And that matters. There we go. Visualpatterns.org. I'm going to bring it in and show you. So I like visual patterns because it kind of gives the comfort of a worksheet, but then it's not that. Okay, are we there? Yay. All right, so visual patterns basically, I don't know who actually made this. I don't know if she made it. She could have. If she did, she's a genius and we should all pay her. But visual patterns is, well, I could hit contact and it would tell me. So she has on here, click the pattern, see a larger image, and then what is the equation, which is all fine and good. But you don't have to necessarily have an equation. Maybe what you're going to do is, so you have different patterns and different squares of them and numbers. Your job may not be to write the equation, but it could be to verbally describe what's happening. What would be the next step? What would be the 10th step? Why do you know that's the answer? How can we change this so that such and such could be the answer instead? So it gives you just a collection of images that you can actually access on any device. And I remember having to try to come up with patterns on my own. This case, you don't have to come up with patterns on your own. There's like 160 of them already here for you. This one, again, not writing the equation. What's changing with each pattern? What's happening? And getting the kids to talk about it and to explain it. And maybe they can even take this and build upon that. How could you create a pattern that is how would this pattern look decreasing? Because this one, of course, is increasing. There's another one. And I think one of my favorite story books to read, I think there's a story, and I know it is because I used to do like real books in a math class, but the story about there was a couple and they were catering some dinner, and the whole story is about how the tables have to change depending on the number of people that are coming to the dinner. So this one actually reminded me of that, the pattern number 15 from Katie, if somebody submitted this, to again tell what's happening in the story. And I think there might actually be a pattern somewhere on here that maybe relates more to that spaghetti story someplace, which, I mean, we could look here all day and maybe not find it. Have y'all seen any of these?
We have had a couple of different people in Twitter that have responded back saying that they've seen it, and about 5 that have said no, they've never seen it before. So what a great resource to share.
Yay! That makes me happy and excited. And there's some additional ones here. Like I've never seen this one. Pattern 1 from Simon Gregg, length of hypotenuse of black triangle. Oh, that's cool. 3, 4, 5, 5, 12, 13. Oh, that's really cool. So you have, I mean, so many different options that you can look for and how you use tools like this in the math classroom. So again, no, we're not necessarily, and we haven't even talked about the creating part of this. We're talking about using the technology in the class to help enhance and to bring out the analyzing of information that we want kids to do and to really think like mathematicians with, of course, real information. So I'm going to share another tool with you really quick, and I'm going to go to NCTM because, NCTM has some decent resources. But if you're on, and here's what I'm going to talk about, but I'm also kind of annoyed with it, so I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to tell you why. So NCTM has what's called Core Math Tools, which sounds just awesome, doesn't it? Because you can download them. So here's the deal. You can't use these on like a Chromebook because they actually have to download and download onto your computer. So that is the annoying part. But if you're on like a regular PC or computer, which I am on now, I can click this general purpose tools. They have like an algebra and functions calculator, spreadsheets, geometry, trigonometry, interactive geometry tool. They have like most of these tools that are here through NCTM that you can get. The other thing that you can do is Illuminations has changed, and I used to use Illuminations quite a bit. And it's a little bit different. Let me go back to Lessons and Resources. But I was here like the other day. There we go. So Illuminations also gives you just some really quick things or activities that you can do like in your math class with your students. Now, I'm going to say this, most middle school and up most middle school and up teachers know about a lot of these things, but I have found that a lot of like lower elementary or sometimes even 4th to 5th grade don't necessarily, because even when we go to conferences, we don't necessarily talk about the tools of NCTM or anything else. So most of my teachers had no idea that they were there. But like there's little brain teasers here, but they're not like interactive. I think they're mostly questions that kids can look at and answer, which clearly are a little bit no different than some of the other tools that we looked at. But again, the idea is to get kids to think about math and to talk about math a little bit differently. All right, so I have couple of other things to show you, and then I'm going to kind of turn it over to whatever questions that we have. So now let's talk about how to get kids creating in math. How many of you have done posters on the wall? Which probably all of us. One of my favorite tools, and I'm going to throw it up here just by typing in the URL, is TAC. And I love TAC.com because TAC.com it basically is the same poster on your wall, but it's digitally. And so, of course, you can title whatever your project is, Geometry in the Real World. And I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Add your headline or whatever if you want. But your students can go take pictures from the problems that they've done and upload it, or they can upload from Instagram or from some other URL. You can search 500px. I usually do this, and this is one of my favorite things to do because in Texas, the State Fair of Texas is coming. So there's Will. I actually like to use 500px's images to pull, so I'll pull like a picture like that in. And this would be kind of how I would start my class day, is to say, let's kind of like we did with 101 questions, but everybody write a question. What questions do you see or think about whenever you look at this? And so you'd be surprised by some of the things they talk about, that, oh, I didn't realize that the radius was actually like holding up the seat on the Ferris wheel. And so they would start to ask questions like about that. How many times could you go around? How long would it take? What if you did 3 revolutions? Or what would be the distance between one seat to the next, and how could we use that to tell the actual measurements of the Ferris wheel itself? So it's just using imagery in your math class, but of course that's neither here nor there. Back to what we were doing. At any rate, getting to the digital poster part of this, the students can of course upload their creations that they're doing. If they've done videos that they've posted across the web, I love using Instagram in class, especially for math. They can take the link to that video, or even Vine. You can post Vine videos here too. They can take the link to that video and post it here. And then to turn it in, because that's another question, how do we get them to turn it in? I'm not signed into my account. Actually, I am signed into my account. But if I were not signed into my account and I wanted to sign up, your students can sign up for TAC through their Edmodo accounts, and then also through Google, so they can quickly share whatever they create for you. Like whatever they create, they can share it to you. An example that I have of this is, and I'm trying to think about what it's called. I have an example because you hear my family in the background, so this is an actual really fun conference. I think that he called it Geometry Stories or something. I'm not sure. But hang on. There we go. I knew I wasn't crazy. So my son actually had a project earlier this year, and I posted it to Twitter. And so he used TAC in order to create his poster to turn it in. So that's his little picture of his geometry in the real world. And so for this, he actually used Haiku Deck, which is, it's not really a new idea, but it was new to him, new to his teachers. So I was really surprised at that. To use Haiku Deck to actually put the actual presentation together, and then so using TAC, this video was made in Animoto and then embedded into the TAC, which I'm not going to play the whole thing, but the video is just the collection of images that he did for his lesson. Now, can you do something like that in your middle school math class? Yes. I used to do Animoto to actually have kids to explain a particular problem, where they would start out with the problem set itself. They may write the questions through PowerPoints or whatever the case may be, save it as images, and then pull it in. Now, does that really enhance how they learn? I'm going to be honest and say not necessarily. However, what it did do was the way that they learned on creating the artifacts for it, that right there was the win. That's where they did all of the describing and analyzing and inferring. When they put it together in their final project, in their poster or video, that was really for them. So, and also the other part of the math was for them as well. But when you're getting kids to create in meaningful ways, it is sometimes, especially where the creativity comes in, it's not only just it's motivating, but it makes it a little bit more fun. And so I think that I don't want to be one of those math teachers or a tech person that wants to take the fun out of it. I think it needs to be. Now, I said that was kind of one last thing, but I'm going to share one more thing with you that I just learned today. So you're about to get something I just learned today, and I'm so excited about it that I'm actually going to throw this in. So I don't know if I'm not going to show Kahoot because you see that kind of come up. But have y'all seen Get Class Kick? I think this is probably my new favorite tool that I cannot wait for Monday to go and share. So Class Kick is, it sounds like an assessment tool. It's free for now. They want to make it free forever, but more people need to sign up for it to be free. So what Class Kick does is it connects all of your students that are on iPads to you, the teacher. So as a teacher, you can actually, so I actually have my iPad here, and I don't even know if I can stream this right now, but I'm not gonna There we go. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
Can you see that?
Yep, we got it.
Class. The teacher is happy, and our students feel successful. But it wasn't always like this. It's print, copy,
I'm going to skip through some of this.
That she didn't know how the rest of her students were doing, especially the ones too shy to raise hands. Ms. K couldn't stand to leave students hanging.
Okay, I'm going to skip that video a little bit because I know you can go to the website and look at it. But here's what it does. So your students all have so you, the teacher, have created this assignment. You've pulled in pictures, you've pulled in video, you can do audio, you can draw on the screen if you want. You share it to your students. So once your students connect to your class, you can see exactly where they are at every step of the problem. So they're doing real problem solving, highlighting, circling, writing out strategies, whatever the case may be. While they're working, wherever they are, you see it. So you can click on a student, you can go into their workspace, you can add notes, you can add you can add notes, you can add audio feedback, you can send more stuff to them. I mean, it's like you have inserted yourself inside their iPad, and you're right there looking at them while they're working on it in real time. Now, it's brand new, so there are a few little kinks along the way. Like, I think Dan Meyer wrote a blog about it, and some other teachers have used it, and they've written about it. And they've talked about how, it's a little bit difficult sometimes with higher level math when the kids are doing very precise graphing that they're writing with their fingers, and sometimes that can be a little bit hard, or it needs to be more detailed where you can zoom all the way in and do really fine lines. So there may have been, I think people had issues with that. However, this is the first time that I've seen an assessment piece this way, where you can send. It's not just yes, no. It's not about sending yes, this is right, no, this is wrong. It is about discussing and talking about and having that interchange with your students along the way. And it's a free app in the App Store. It's ClassKick, all in one word. But I think this is. I don't really get that excited about technology, which is hilarious because that is my job. But this is the first time I've ever been this excited about something that I have just started exploring. So I'm going to encourage you all to go download and play with it because it is. I think that this is really transformative, and it's different. And it's a great tool for you to use. Can it be used in other classes? Absolutely. It doesn't necessarily just have to be math. But the fact that I love activities. I love like Kahoot and Socrative and things like that. But I love the fact that they can do real problem solving. And I don't have to give them a multiple choice question. I can give them an open-ended question. I can put in a website like 180 questions, or like Estimation 180, and throw that website in there, and we can talk about them estimating through a problem, and they're on their iPads, and we're discussing, and it's just, I love it. It's just real-time, instant student feedback. Okay, so I only have like 5 minutes left, and I'm going to unshare my screen. Do y'all have any questions?
Yeah, we've actually had a couple of questions come. Actually, just so you know, I just signed up for ClassKick. I am so super excited.
I'm like, that is like, I like love that more than I love anything. Like, I could have done a whole 50 minutes on that if I knew more about it than what I'd like. I'm literally going to classrooms Monday just to try this out.
That is awesome. That's kind of my goal too after seeing it. So one of the questions that we have is, with so many amazing resources, how do you keep track of what you have and what you use and what you filter out?
All right, good question. For me, and especially when planning with teachers, we really do adhere to what we want the intended outcomes to be, what students should be able to do by the end of a lesson, and if something fits with that, then it does. For example, things like class starters, to me, are great things, like the Estimation 180 and the 101 questions. That's something you can throw in every day. You can throw it at the beginning and the end of the day. It doesn't. I don't think that there's a limit to that. But with some of the other tools that are out there, it depends on what we're studying. It if it's more algebraic thinking, then I would jump to Desmos or the visual patterns website that I showed you. If it's something like, there are plenty of other tools that I didn't even talk about because I know we talk about them all the time, like a lot of the screencasting apps, you know, just the video recording period. If we're doing a project and it requires for a video to be created, that's a completely different application. But if it's a poster I would normally hang on the wall, then I might jump to TAC. Sometimes I might use a poster on the wall. The thing about math is I don't believe in doing the substitution of a digital tool in place of a hands-on tool. If they can do it hands-on, we're doing it hands-on. If the digital part enhances that, then we will do the digital. Does that make sense?
Yep, nope, that's great. So another question that we had is, how do you find resources like these?
Twitter. And I know it's really fun to say that on Twitter when you're on a Google Hangout, and you've been on Twitter more than likely, but I follow the right mix of people, and then I don't go and specifically look for math tools. I go look for tools that help with explain, analyze. I go to the verbs. And so if I see an English language arts teachers or tech people that are sharing those storytelling tools, I find a lot of things in that area, and then we go and apply how we would use it in math. But if they're math-specific tools, I read Dan Meyer's blog, I read Andrew Stadle's blog. Tap Into Teen Minds is another great website, and I didn't share that. It's tapintoteenminds.com, and that one is Kyle Pierce, I think, does that one. And he has collected not just a series of people and tools, but I think he does have a collection of tools there. But he also shares a lot of the 3-act math lessons, and a lot of them integrate technology. So, I mean, when I find something that just really sparks my attention, I kind of stick with it. Another great person to follow is Kathy Yinka. Her Twitter is @MathyCathy, and it's mathycathy.com. She uses, I think she's an iPad 1-to-1 in her classroom, and so she uses a lot of not just tools, but she talks about the pedagogy behind it, and that's my language. And so I love looking at a lot of what she does as well. And you talk to people, connect with other people, and you will learn not just tools, but just the thinking and how they do things.
All right, I think that that one kind of leads us to another one that I'm just curious to ask myself. Do you support, when you go in and out of different classrooms and things, do you support having a separate time for teaching math? Or what do you think about framework of that?
That's a good question. I think that we don't encounter that until elementary. And I'm going to be honest, the program that I graduated from, I watched how we ushered the people who were really horrible at math, and they were, I'm not going to lie, I tutored them, and some of them are teaching, and they know they are sometimes, but when I say horrible at math, they have had horrible foundations, and so their thinking about it is, I hate this math, and so when they get in the classroom, they don't spend enough time with it, and they skip around on things when they shouldn't. I honestly think every school should have a person who is a math specialist certified to help in that case, because there are people who are excellent at English and they go teach English, and there are people that are excellent at history and they do history. They love science, they go do science. But an elementary teacher knows all K through 6, and some of them are great at all of it, but we all have our weaknesses and areas. And I think that you need, there's a phone, it did it on the clock, 12:45, but I think that you need to have that kind of additional support. With that said, math is everywhere. Does it need about teaching things in isolation? I don't believe that. I think that we need to embed more of the math in the way we think. I love the STEM lessons that combine math and science, engineering, technology into maybe one scope and not necessarily just math by itself. Do you need to teach individual skills? Yes. But I also think we have to stop ignoring the fact that we do have a problem at lower elementary level, where we're getting these kids in middle school who have gaps for days because we've made it okay to skip on the things that we don't necessarily feel comfortable teaching. And anybody that says that doesn't happen is insane.
Excellent.
I just lost like half of my Twitter followers with that statement, but I love you all. But let me help you.
Exactly. I actually, that was an amazing answer. So I'm going to be rewatching that last bit over and over again. So, all right. I think we are set to go ahead and close up. Any final thoughts?
Thank you for letting me just kind of fly off the handle and do this. I mean, this is kind of where I live my life every day, and I think I gravitate more towards math than anything else because for me, this is me, this is my comfort zone, and thank you for being here and for hosting.
No problem. Thank you. All right, and thank you to the viewers too. We appreciate you. And this will be archived. I'll send out the direct link as soon as possible.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.